to understand, and I would like to have a printout map done of what did our countryside look like in 1775, 1975, and then 2025. I would honestly believe if you look at that route that they went on foot and or horseback, it's probably Macadam Highway now. And maybe that's a shout out for preservation open space, which I believe in very much. But basically, the ride historically was after the Pennsylvania Assembly. It wasn't easy. You had loyalists, you had the Lutherans, Quakers, John Morton, signer of Declaration of Independence. With that being said, the election of George Washington for leading the Continental Army was not easy, because you had the northern components and the southern components for the colonies that really wanted South a southerner, and the northerners, Boston, other regions, wanted a northerner. And so it was back and forth, but they really need somebody to lead the militias that were out there. So by a close vote, George Washington was elected General Washington, but he had to get up to Cambridge, Massachusetts. Who could do that? Philadelphia Light Horse, 1774, a light horse cavalry unit, and gentlemen from the Philadelphia area that had already formed their unit, recognizing what was going on in Boston and for other reasons. But to this day, the unit is an active unit, great history, and the men and women behind the unit, and we continue to serve. And as a veteran myself, I continue to serve not only in reenactments, other capacities. He believed in the notion capturing the moment, a picture. So if it was a sperm whale jumping or a hummingbird, he said, you got to capture the moment. He was fascinated by Washington. This is 1974, I guess, 75. He approached National Geographic magazine and said, look, could you do an article? And they said, well, if we do an article, it's going to be called Washington Behind, the Man Behind the Myth. He then learned about the troop, had been involved with fox chasing, their cavalry, and he approached them, and I think approximately 12 to 15 members ponied up, I think, $1,500 back then, and were able to cover certainly the direction from going Philadelphia to Faunce's Tavern on the Battery in New York, where they met with Washington. And that inn today is still there, and I will be visiting there as one of the stops on my walk. The walk being an opportunity to communicate with communities for 4 states about the history of this ride, giving me a chance to meet with community people, talk about history, a then and now. What was the medicine back then? What is it now? What was the form of communication? I was talking to Apple business component. I said, look, back then you would send a dispatcher, you would stand on a box and yell and promote something in a town square for particular calls. Now Apple with EarPods and certainly all platforms of communication, Verizon and Comcast and whatnot. The cell phone component has changed the world. We didn't have those back then. So it was a word of mouth, and actual presence of being there was crucial. And that's why my feeling was that even though the anniversary of the ride will be between beginning May through July 3rd, 2025. They actually were in Cambridge just before the 4th. I knew about the troop at the Bicentennial doing this ride. I was always fascinated. I'm a Cav guy. I fox chase. I'm a member of Radnor Hunt. When we go out in the morning and the mist is rising with maybe 30 people on horseback and the hounds and the geese, the rest of the world, most people are still in bed. There's something very powerful about that. And so the ride itself that was undertaken, and Dan Spiegel, unfortunately, he's in a nursing home, he believed in it very much, and National Geographic. At the Bicentennial, those 15 gentlemen did ride into Faunce's Tavern and had the meeting, and some then continued up to Cambridge. That's really something. So here we are now coming up to the Bicentennial, 2025. Why can't we do it again? Fran Jacobs, my first sergeant, gave a presentation at the Armory, I think about 2.5 years ago, Some of the people that actually participated in the ride zoomed in, another Zoom call in, and then we probably had 60 people in the room. And Fran, at that point, was just giving a background of what happened on the ride. He put together an incredible file of the events. And some of the people, as we get older, are infirm in the standpoint they can't ride anymore, but they were part of that, and it meant something to them. So I said to Fran Jacobs, Mr. Jacobs, for Sergeant Jacobs, I want to see if we can make this happen again. And it hasn't been easy. It really hasn't, because of logistics and costs and acquisition of horses or loans. It cannot be a dog and pony show, as I say. So logistically, I reached out very early on to Michelle Bradley, who was nice enough, and I'm compensating her a pittance for her great quality work. But she has been organizing and put together an extensive file with people in different states, communicating with Sons of American Revolution representatives, people with historical societies. And with that communication now, we've had from each of the 4 states I'll be walking through, and if we get the horses for riding, has expressed interest. And that's important because we need partners. And I think that's what's exciting about this. I'm not going to walk the whole way in my colonial boots and things, but the plan would be to do a segment of the trail and then take an Uber back to my car where I started, take the car up to that point, spend the night, and then walk, and in other words, back and forth using that car and Uber to help me move along the line. I had a knee injury, so I can't run, but for my first test, I did a suicide prevention walk run out at Coatesville, VA. And there were a couple gentlemen that most of the people could run, and I was extremely jealous, but that's so be it. But I think 3 of us, we walked, and it came out to about, we did 3 miles in just under an hour. And that wasn't a fast walk per se, as they say in the military, a route march, but it was at a pace that gave me a pretty good idea. So yes, segments initially, approximately 10 miles a day, depending. The weather is cooler, so I'm really going to be pushing in the next, through the end of September and October particularly, but making sure that I'm up in Cambridge on the 17th, where in this case, the troopers having their anniversary dinner on the 15th. The reason I want to be in Cambridge, on the 15th is the night the troopers having their dinner. I will be having a huge decanter of wine delivered by either General Knox or another noted Revolutionary War hero, because I can't be there. But I will be having some beers with my fellow patriot reenactors in Cambridge, and I think it's befitting because the story behind the troop, its ride, is extremely important. But the troop is also an active military unit today. And so logistically, it's not as if everybody can shut down the operation and dedicate everything to the ride or to walk at this point. Hopefully, towards spring, there'll be some more interest because I know the military is interested in this. I'm looking at it particularly from the standpoint, I am a volunteer service officer. I work with vets with PTSD through my injuries and getting care at the VA, which I'm very grateful. That's going to be part of the mission piece as I go into communities, because there are a lot of vets, men and women, that go off the radar. Opportunity for recruitment. The Coast Guard reached out to Captain Bloom for the regional area for Philadelphia, Delaware Basin. They're going to lose 20% of their workforce, not because they don't like what they do. They're aging out, meaning you can only do these things for so long. So part of it's going to be reaching out to students and say, I spoke to 2 young women that were interested in biology, and I said, did you know you could do this in Coast Guard? They had no idea. I said, marine biology, environmental cleanup, other things. But all the branches have fascinating opportunities, and that's an opportunity for us because we need people to serve. It's not necessarily you're going to race into a combat zone. There are so many ancillary components to these service areas that are going to help us as citizens themselves. This route of Washington is important because he needed to be in that position to start the leadership. And then he had an opportunity to start interfacing with these wonderful Europeans that came forward and had the opportunity to assist us. But it wasn't easy, and it happened. And you think about the march down to Trenton. So This is important to me on many levels, and I am one, as you well know, as a teacher and a preservationist and a veteran, want to engage people.
Eugene Hough, actually Corporal Eugene Hough, honorary number 2260, standing in front of the Armory. This November 17th is our 250th anniversary. What's important about that date, too, is in 1775, our unit escorted General Washington from Philadelphia to Cambridge, Mass. 308 miles. That is what I am going to be doing this fall over the next 3.5 weeks, highlighting engaging communities over 4 states, youth, history, preservation, and also advocacy for our veterans in the community. Mental health and care. As this placard says at the bottom, veterans still serving. It's important to connect with people. There will be more information to follow. This is just a short clip as I can see the court. Thank you very much.